कया चक्षुस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणम्। Hare Krishna, thank you all for joining. Wait a minute. This panel, okay. Yeah. So we completed till 8:30 last time, and it was a continuation of Gajendra's prayers, and Gajendra prays by addressing and glorifying the Supreme Lord very nicely. And we saw how he, yeah, we saw 26 to 30 last time. So, yeah, Supreme Person who is the creator of the universe, who is himself the form of the universe, and who is nonetheless transcendental to the cosmic manifestation. And then then master of all mystic yoga, who is seen in the core of the heart by perfect mystics. They're completely purified and free from the reactions of fruitive activity by practicing bhakti yoga. A controller of formidable strength in the three kinds of energy, you appear as a reservoir of all sense pleasure, the protector of the surrendered souls, unlimited energy, unapproachable by those who are unable to control their senses. So your illusory energy is the reason why the jiva, who is actually the part and parcel of God, forgets his real identity. Okay? And then the prayers end, the prayers conclude, and then Shukdev Goswami is now, he said in verse 30, he kind of summarized, when the king of elephants was describing the supreme authority, without mentioning any particular person, he did not invoke the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, and Chandra. Thus, none of them approached him. However, because Lord Hari is the super soul, Purushottama, the personality of Godhead, he appeared before Gajendra. So it was clear from the prayers that the demigods were not being addressed here. So they knew it very well, and then none of them approached Gajendra. So eventually, now today we'll see how the Lord himself appears and saves Gajendra. So yeah, we can start with verse 31. And Nitya Mataji, if you can please cover this one.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Tam tadvadartam upalabhya jagannivasa stotram nishamya विजय सह संस्तुत्वाद्भिः छन्दोमयेन गुरुदेन संयुज्यमानस् चक्रायुधोऽभ्यागमदस्तु यतो Gajendra. Translation. After understanding the awkward condition of Gajendra, who had offered his prayers, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who lives everywhere, appeared with the demigods who were offering prayers to him. Carrying his disc and other weapons, he appeared there on the back of his carrier, Garuda, with great speed, according to his desire. Thus, he appeared before Gajendra. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur specifically hints that Gajendra was in such a difficult position and was praying for the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demigods, who could have immediately gone to his rescue, hesitated to go there. Since they considered Gajendra's prayer to be directed towards the Lord, they felt offended, and this in itself was offensive. Consequently, when the Lord went there, they also went and offered prayers to the Lord so that their offense might be excused. Yeah. So it's very interesting to see that when the demigods get offended, if I don't know if it applies to devotees in general, but I'm not sure how to take the understand the essence behind the purport. Is it applied only for exalted devotees like Gajendra, that when he prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the other demigods get offended, or does it apply for all the devotees like us? But nevertheless, I think it shows that I really like the verse here. He in the translation, he appeared there on the back of his carrier, Garuda, with great speed according to his desire, which means that it's God's speed. So it is it's very which means that he immediately appeared there, because he knew that the awkward position of Gajendra, and he immediately appeared there. Consequently, when the Lord went there, they also went and offered prayers to the Lord. So again, watering the root of the tree satisfies the branch, the leaves, the every parts of the tree. So by offering prayers directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the demigods also get satisfied. Again, I'm not quite sure why the demigods felt offended, and because the watering the root should have appeased them as well. But I just if there's any clarification that you all can give, that will be great. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice point. Watering the root of the tree. The verse was quoted in the last verse, which you covered actually last time. Yatha taror mulli chechanena. Tripyanti tatskanda bhujopashakha pranopahara yathendriyanam tathaiva sarvaranam achyuteja. Yeah, I mean, we see examples like that of Durvas Muni and his disciples who came to kind of unnecessarily trouble the Pandavas and Draupadi. So thousands of disciples and Durvas Muni, they came and during prasadam time, but then all the prasadam was over. And that time Krishna, when he took that little morsel of food that was prasad that was left, all of them who were having bath in the river, they suddenly felt, they started belching and they became so heavy, their bellies became so heavy that they didn't have any hunger and they went away. So one of the lessons there that is taken is by satisfying the Supreme Lord, everyone is satisfied. But yes, this is like different here, something different being told here. And but yeah, we also see examples like Indra, when he got offended, not exactly when in one sense we can say that our Govardhan hill is non-different than Krishna. And so he also kind of got offended when Krishna or Govardhan hill was being worshipped. So yeah, it's yeah, I'll have to think more about this. Krishnan Prabhu raised his hand. Please, Krishnan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think these are nice points about about watering the roots, and the point that caught my attention was with great speed according to his desire. So it's God's mercy to decide when to appear, and that was a point that I felt I certainly caught my eye, that Gajendra is obviously an exalted devotee, but the God decides when and where to appear, and
yeah, it's amazing. Everything happens as per his will. What is that? Janma karma chamedivam evam yo vekti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti sorjana. So his appearance and activities are divya, and he does it out of his own free will. Not only his appearance, but even getting bound by the love of a devotee is so this verse, actually even I read that line and then I brought out this verse that I had recently read. Swamathu svinnagatraya visrasta kabarasrajah drishtva parishramam krishnah kripaya sita swabandhane. This is in 10th canto, Damodar Leela. Because of Mother Yashoda's hard labor, her whole body became covered with perspiration and the flowers and comb were falling from her hair. When child Krishna saw his mother thus fatigued, he became merciful to her and agreed to be bound. So here also Krishna is, Kripaya Sita Swabandhane. So out of mercy for Mother Yashoda, he is Swabandhane. He is himself letting himself to be bound. So like that. So one of the qualities of Krishna is Swarat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasya yatonmayat itaratascharteshva abhigya swarat. Krishna is independent. Nobody can control him as such. He can let the love of a devotee control him, right? But that is his own free will. That is out of his own sweet free will, out of his love. He lets the devotee, he lets himself be conquered by the devotee. So yeah, definitely we can't say that, hey, I chanted 16 rounds all my life, take me back to Godhead Krishna. No, it doesn't work that way. If Krishna doesn't want, he'll not take. If Krishna wants, he'll take. So yeah, anyway. But yeah, any ideas about this apparent paradox here, that the gods felt offended?
I want to say something, Prabhu.
Yes.
Like I really love this, that how acharyas reveal how acharyas can see between the lines of Srimad Bhagavatam. Like the translation will be like that Lord appeared with the demigod, the supreme personality of Godhead Hari, who lives everywhere, appeared with the demigods who were offering prayers to him. That's the translation. But how acharyas can see between the lines and then explain to us the very hidden meaning and the amazing purport. And Srila Prabhupada kindly translated it here, that he was praying to Supreme Lord, and demigod wanted to come, but they didn't come because they felt offended, because he's praying to Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, and not us. So we won't go. And then, and after that, sometime they felt, oh, we shouldn't have thought like that. It's our mistake. So then they come, they felt offended, and this itself, it was offense. They feeling offended was itself offense, and they realized it. And then consequently, when Lord went there, they also appeared and started praying so that they can be excused. So this is amazing, like how he Acharya is able to see these minute details. And I think from what, like, my understanding from other purports is that Prabhupada somewhere also is stressing here that demigods, yeah, of course, it's very high position. They are elevated, but it's again limited. It has limitations, and they can fall into nescience and end up comparing themselves with Lord, or thinking in with a material mind, like a Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna, up to the Brahma Loka, or um, a Brahmastambha Paryantam Sarva Mayamayam Jagat, how Maya pervades like throughout this material world up to the Brahma Loka. And then and even the great demigods can fall prey to it and then end up thinking like the Lord. But their good quality is that they come back to their original state of like being surrendered to the Lord, and they ask forgiveness, repent, and then again worship Lord with devotion. Yeah, that's what.
Very nice points, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, demigods also sometimes are covered by Maya, and then they are covered by Maya, but depending on who they are, depending on their consciousness, also they can elevate themselves. And yeah, we seen the example of Brahma, Indra, so many times that how they got covered, and they considered themselves as very great. So something like this happened with me also. Once I sent a poem to Pune devotees who were doing a magazine. I mentioned this example to some devotees here. So I sent this poem to them, and then Radhesham Prabhu reviewed it, and then he sent me a correction. He said, "What this is not what we are doing. Remove this, change it," and things like that. So I was kind of, my ego was hurt. I thought, what is this? I've written poems, and here I'm being offered a correction. I felt like that. So yes, the different parts and parcels will be satisfied as long as they are connected to the whole, I guess. So if they are not connected to the whole due to whatever reason, then one can think independently and consider themselves to be, if not equal to, then at least to some level comparable to the Lord. So yeah, very nice point.
Thank you for completing circle, Prabhu, with the last point that if parts are connected to the whole, then only they can be satisfied. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. So moving on, unless anybody has any other points here, please, we'll go ahead. So 8332, Lekha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah. So Ananta Sarasyorubalena Grihita Arto Drishtva Garutmati Harim Ka Upata Chakram Ukshipya Sambuja Karam Giramaha Krichram Narayanakila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Translation. Gajendra had been forcefully captured by the crocodile in the water and was feeling acute pain. But when he saw that Narayana, wielding his disc, was coming in the sky on the back of Garuda, he immediately took a lotus flower in his trunk, and with great difficulty due to his painful condition, he uttered the following words. O my Lord Narayana, Master of the universe, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. The king of the elephants was so very eager to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead that when he saw the Lord coming in the sky with great pain and in a feeble voice, he offered respect to the Lord. A devotee, excuse me, a devotee does not consider a dangerous position to be dangerous, for in such a dangerous position he can fervently pray to the Lord in great ecstasy. Thus, a devotee regards danger as a good opportunity. Tattenu kampam susamikshamaanaha. When a devotee is in great danger, he sees that danger to be the great mercy of the Lord, because it is an opportunity to think of the Lord very sincerely and with undiverted attention. Taktenu kampam susamikshamaano bhunjanam evatma kritam vipakam. He does not accuse the Supreme Personality of Godhead for having let his devotee fall into such a dangerous condition. Rather, he considers that dangerous condition to be due to his past misdeeds and takes it as an opportunity to pray to the Lord and offer thanks for having been given such an opportunity. When a devotee lives in this way, his salvation, his going back home, back to Godhead, is guaranteed. We can see this to be true from the example of Gajendra, who anxiously prayed to the Lord and thus received an immediate chance to return home back to Godhead. I think this is a very, very inspiring purport, like something that everyone who's into spirituality needs to aspire for. Even the word Taktenu Kampam Susamikshamanam, it basically says if whatever dangerous or in a miserable position anybody is, if they just keep quiet, just like how a son has to do nothing to acquire the property of their father, but just live and get by. Similarly, whatever happens, you just get through it and take it as a karmic reaction. Then, like, liberation is yours. That's that's like the gist of the verse, Taktenu Kampam. To me, this is a very, it's like a really long way to go, but this is but I think as we meditate and as we it's just from my personal experience that if we keep hearing and reading more, and I've heard from senior devotees that whatever situation you are at, Krishna actually gives you the intelligence to navigate the situation. That it doesn't mean that the situation can get better, but you get the strength to navigate through the situation. And Gajendra is King Gajendra is a very relevant and apt example, because I think we had this discussion a couple of sessions before as well. Like, for Gajendra, everything was good until suddenly things toppled over, and like in a jiffy, like things just toppled over. Until then, everything was good and there was nothing that was like bothering him. He was the king and he was having the time of his life. And then he's intelligent enough to take the shelter of the Lord.
तो म्यूट नहीं होता हुआ
To take the shelter of the Lord, and and I think that's a takeaway point to me. I still can't fathom how to get to that position, but I think whatever we are doing towards our Krishna consciousness, it counts, and it'll help us build that strength and faith in the Lord as we go by.
Beautiful, Mataji. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's very difficult to be on that position where we suffer the reactions of our suffer the reactions of our past misdeeds. At the same time, we keep loving the Lord, keep serving the Lord. So yeah, it's a difficult so the verse Tattenu Kampam Shushamikshamaano Bhunjana Evatma Kritam Vipakam Rid Vag Vapurbhir Vidadhan Namaste Jivetayo Mukti Pade Sadai Bhag. So Rid is heart, Vak is Rid Vag is Vani, our tongue or our words. Rid, heart, words, and Vapu, body. All these three things we have to offer to the Lord. Even when we are being, kicked by Maya because of our past misdeeds. So definitely very tough situation, tough position to be in, and very high, lofty goal. Actually, it's a lofty goal, but definitely we can pray that we can develop that kind of devotion and eventually get there at some point. So yeah. And yeah, dangerous, a devotee does not consider dangerous position to be dangerous. For in such a dangerous position, he can fervently pray to the Lord in great ecstasy. Vipada santu taha shashvat tatra tatra jagat guru. Bhavato darshanam yat syad apunarbhava darshanam. Kunti Maharani is praying that give me more calamities, give us more calamities, O Lord, because when in calamities you come and save us. And when you come and save us, when you appear in front of us, apunarbhava darshanam, we don't have to see the world of birth and death again. So yeah, it's very I mean, it's one thing to kind of pray to Krishna that please don't give me dangerous situations and please let me remember you. But Kunti Maharani is going one step ahead and saying that give me dangerous situations, something that no one prays for as such. So yeah, so that is the reason this is a very elevated position to be in. And very simple things affect us. So very, very things that are from a standpoint of eternity are not very significant actually. Like for instance, we had our compensation discussions today. Everybody was so anxious what will happen, how much we'll get, and what bonus and blah blah blah. It was everybody was focused on that. So yeah. Any other reflections here?
I have a question. Are there pastimes inside the Srimad Bhagavatam where a devotee goes through pain and suffering and still remembers the Lord? Are there, it doesn't obviously, somehow it's not coming to my memory, but
Pandavas are one example.
Prahlad Maharaj, Amrish Maharaj,
yes.
Dhruv Maharaj, almost every pastime, Prabhuji, involves the pain that a devotee is going through and is still able to think of the Lord. So Prahlad Maharaj immediately comes to mind. Amrish Maharaj also, when that monster was about to kill him, he immediately thought of the Lord. Vritrasura also, when he was being chopped off for 1,000 years by the lightning thunderbolt of Indra, for 1,000 years he was thinking of the Lord. And the Lord does not immediately show up. Like in this pastime also, the demigods actually are thinking that why doesn't Gajendra pray to us? Why does he have to pray to the Supreme Lord? We can immediately solve the problem immediately. There's an immediate solution and we can do it. But he waited patiently and he kept on praying to the Lord. He had that faith that my Lord will come. My Lord will come to save me. So similarly, if we also pray at the final moment, the Lord will come. So that is there are several examples, Prabhu. I hope that answers Krishna, Prabhu.
No, you did answer the question. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, moving ahead. 33. Vamshidhar Gopal Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Yeah. Prabhu, can I see Devanagari?
Yes, yes. Okay. Yeah.
तं वीक्ष्य पीडितम् अज सहसावतीर्य सग्राहमाशु सरस कृपयोज्जहार ग्रहाद्विपाटी मुखाद् आरिना गजेन्द्रं सपश्यतां हरिर् अमुमुचाद् उच्छ्रिय नामा. After seeing Gajendra in such an aggrieved position, the unborn Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, immediately got down from the back of Garuda by his causeless mercy and pulled the king of the elephants along with the crocodile out of the water. Then, in presence of all the demigods who were looking on, the Lord severed the crocodile's mouth from its body with his disc. In this way, he saved Gajendra, the king of the elephants. Purport. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport of 8th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender. Hari Bol. So this is a climax of this amazing pastime. Seeing the Gajendra in very aggrieved condition, the unborn Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, he got down from the Garuda and pulled Gajendra out of the water along with the crocodile clinging onto his fleet. And then Lord severed the head of crocodile. And in this way saved Gajendra. In that, Lord was very pleased because in that painful situation also Gajendra was praying. He offered a lotus flower, and then Lord mercifully saved Gajendra. So in this way Gajendra was saved even physically. His ignorance went away, and even his physical body was saved. In this context, I am remembering a lecture of Radhesham Prabhu during the Bangladesh incident happened, that some of our ISKCON devotees were killed, their bodies were thrown in ponds, horrible situation. In that lecture, Radhesham Prabhu was insisting on the fact that the ways of Lord saving his devotees can be very different sometimes. Sometimes their consciousness will be saved, and then in the next birth they will get better chance to practice their bhakti. And in case of some devotees, even their apparent physical body will be saved, like Prahlad Maharaj, like Gajendra. Like when they prayed Lord for the protection, Lord gave them darshan and also saved their physical existence. But in some cases we see that devotees lost their body. Lord apparently didn't save them, but they continued their devotional life and then went back to uh, Godhead, like Bharat Maharaj or Chitraketu Maharaj, Vritrasur pastime, which Gaur Kumar Prabhu just quoted.
Parikshit Maharaj, even Parikshit Maharaj.
Yeah, even Parikshit Maharaj. Yes.
Parikshit Maharaj is interesting because the Lord saved him when he was in the womb, saved the body, but he saved the soul towards the end, even he was killed also. So he had elevated his consciousness so much that he didn't have to be saved his material body at the end.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, both. I mean, he physically also saved first, and then he saved the soul. So yeah, this way, like the Lord's protection can be different for different devotees. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to mention. Yes.
Very nice point, Prabhu. We need to remember that because sometimes we have a very narrow definition, narrow understanding of how the Lord will reciprocate with us. But the Lord reciprocates from his perspective, knowing what is good for us, not from our perspective. Our perspective is very limited because we are the amsha of the Lord. So very important point that Lord's mercy can come in any way that we might not expect. Yeah.
Another quick realization, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Just while reading this, I realized that the Lord actually pulled the king of the elephants along with the crocodile. So here it means King Indradyumna was also blessed with the touch of the Lord. In this case, very similar to how Dhruva Maharaj was also, I think his cheeks were touched by the Lord or something like that. With the conch shell.
Yeah, his head was touched by the conch shell. And then that's when he started reciting the prayers. Yes, Prabhu, you're right.
Yes.
So this is also interesting. In Dhruva Maharaj's case, prayers started coming when the Lord touched him. But in this case, prayers came first, then the Lord.
Then the Lord touched him.
Yeah. Yes. Any other points here? Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender. So we'll move on to the 9th chapter. Gajendra returns to the spiritual world. So the introduction to this chapter is itself can be considered like a verse. So if I guess next is Nitya Mataji. Can you cover the introduction, Mataji?
Yes, bro. This fourth chapter describes, chapter 4, Gajendra returns to the spiritual world. This fourth chapter describes the previous birth of Gajendra and the crocodile. It tells how the crocodile became a Gandharva and how Gajendra became an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There was a king on the Gandharva planet whose name was Huhu. Once this king Huhu was enjoying with women in water, and while enjoying, he pulled the leg of Devala Rishi, who was also taking a bath in the water. Upon this, the sage became very angry and immediately cursed him to become a crocodile. King Huhu was very sorry when cursed in that way, and he begged pardon from that sage, who in compassion gave him the benediction that he would be freed when Gajendra was delivered by the personality of Godhead. Thus, the crocodile was delivered when killed by Narayana. When Gajendra, by the mercy of the Lord, became one of the Lord's associates in Vaikuntha, he got 4 hands. This achievement is called Sarupya Mukti, or the liberation of receiving a spiritual body exactly like that of Narayan. Gajendra, in his previous birth, had been a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. His name was Indradumna, and he was the king of Tamila country. Following the Vedic principles, this king retired from the family life and constructed a small cottage in the Malayachala hills, where he always worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead in silence. Agastya Rishi, along with many disciples, once approached King Indradumna's ashram, but because the king was meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could not receive Agastya Rishi properly. Thus, the Rishi became very angry and cursed the king to become a dull elephant. In accordance with this curse, the king was born as an elephant, and he forgot all about his previous activities in devotional service. Nonetheless, in his birth as an elephant, when he was dangerously attacked by the crocodile, he remembered his past life in devotional service and remembered a prayer he had learned in that life. Because of this prayer, he again received the mercy of the Lord. Thus, he was immediately delivered, and he became one of the Lord's 4-handed associates. Sukadeva Goswami ends this chapter by describing the good fortune of the elephant. Sukadeva Goswami says that by hearing the narration of Gajendra's deliverance, one can also get the opportunity to be delivered. Sukadeva Goswami vividly describes this, and thus the chapter ends. Should I go on? Okay, yeah. Yes, it's such a wonderful thing to read, actually, this intro. It's so, I mean, we all know this story about the crocodile's backstory and Gajendra's previous birth. I heard 2 things about this pastime. Why was crocodile killed first? Of course, to immediately relieve the pain of Gajendra. But we all know that when Krishna kills even a demon, it means that soul within the demon gets liberated. So which means that King whose soul, which is in the body of a crocodile, was liberated first before Gajendra got the mukti. So that is because King crocodile was surrendering, almost like, of course he was hurting, but he was touching the feet of a devotee. So because of that qualification, he got liberated first. And the next thing that I like is that how Gajendra was able to remember the prayers that he once recited when he was in the body of Indradumna king, and that prayer automatically came to him. So this goes back to the fact that when we read many times in Prabhupada's purport that whatever deposits that we make in spirituality, it never diminishes. So in the next lifetime, we start where we left off. Whereas all the material things that we deposit, it kind of goes back to zero balance at the end of the lifetime, and then you have to start back up. Whereas the spiritual gains that we make in one lifetime is available in the future lifetimes. So this is a proof for that how Gajendra was immediately able to, because when he was in danger, he remembered his past life. Until then, he could not. So yeah, I just wanted to point these two.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, it is so nice that the crocodile, although in a hurtful way, he tried to hurt Gajendra, but still he got the dust of the lotus feet of Gajendra, who was a great devotee, and that's why the Lord was pleased. Of course, this is the lesson here is not that we go and trouble our gurus or great souls and to get their dust of their lotus feet and all that, but the focus here is the prayers of Gajendra. But then it's a Lord is so merciful that even the crocodile tried to hurt Gajendra, and in that process received the sparsha, the touch of the lotus feet of Gajendra. He was delivered even before Gajendra, as you said. So that is really nice. And yeah, this remembering past impressions of bhakti yoga, purvabhyasena tenaiva riyate avashopi saha. So Krishna tells in the Gita that when one does any advancement in spirituality, in yoga, that's never lost, and one can start from there. So it's like it just needs the right environment. Once that right environment comes, suddenly the bhakti blossoms out. So till then it might be dormant, but it's there definitely. But once that suitable environment comes, that's it. The devotee flourishes like anything. So that is very important, and that is we need to remember that always. And yeah, neha bikramana shosti. Any other reflections here? Okay, so we'll start with text 1 of chapter 4. Lekha Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. Shri Shuka Uvacha Tada Devarshi Gandharva Brahmeshana Purogamaha Mumuchuhu Kusumasaram Shamsantaha Karma Taddarehe. Translation. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, when the Lord delivered Gajendra, king of the elephants, all the demigods, sages, and the Gandharvas, headed by Brahma and Shiva, praised this activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and showered flowers upon both the Lord and Gajendra. Purport. It is evident from this chapter that great sages like Devala Rishi, Narada Muni, and Agastya Muni will sometimes curse someone. The curse of such a personality, however, is in fact a benediction. Both the crocodile, who had been a Gandharva in his previous life, and Gajendra, who had been a king named Indradyumna, were cursed, but both of them benefited. Indradyumna, in his birth as an elephant, attained salvation and became a personal associate of the Lord in Vaikunta. And the crocodile, excuse me, and the crocodile regained his status as a Gandharva. We find evidence in many places that the curse of a great saint or devotee is not a curse but a benediction. This actually kind of answers the question I literally had from the previous introduction. I was like, why would Agastya Muni, like he's such a great Muni, like why would he curse someone like that? And we have even for Parikshit Maharaj, he got cursed, but in the end it became a benediction. So did Nalakwera and Manigriva from Damodar pastime. At the end of the day, all of that turned out to be great, good, great benediction. That was just a thing that I observed. But that's my reflection from this program. Yeah.
In fact, even Narad Muni had received a curse. Narad Muni, before he was the maidservant's son, previous life he was a demigod. I don't know which demigod.
Oh,
That
yeah.
name is also mentioned, and he actually offended some sages, and they cursed him that you will be born in a very lowly family
Mm.
on the earthly planet, and that's how he. That curse was also so
Mm.
benevolent that 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 demigod became Narad Muni.
Yeah.
He had to go through the whole purification, but
Mm.
yes, the curse was like the starting point of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, to me, it just seems like there is no escape from the purification process to get to the end goal. It's like for the past couple of days, I was just thinking, is there any other way where we could still achieve the goal, but not go through the not go through the purification process? But whatever I'm hearing, and even when it comes to like reading, it just seems like that is what makes you who you are, who you are as a devotee. I think that was
yeah, यदा ते मोह कलिलं बुद्धिर्व्यतितरिष्यति तदा गन्तासि निर्विदं श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च. Unless one goes through the dense dark forest of delusion, Krishna says in the Gita, only after going through the dense dark forest of delusion can one become different to all material happenings. So that purification is required. It's tough, but
yeah.
everybody's on the on that path, and there is no other way actually, because Krishna likes when so there are two reasons why it's so difficult to attain Krishna, to kind of get pure love of God. So there are two reasons. One is our own lack of desire, or rather lack of strength in our desire.
Yeah.
That is one, because we are distracted by so many things, and something happens, and then something happens in our life, and then we kind of get so engrossed into it that we forget the Lord. So our desire is also not that strong, because the ahaituki aparatiyata, it has to be unmotivated and uninterrupted, right? So our desire is not that strong. That is one reason. And the other reason is Krishna doesn't give himself so easily. Because when Krishna gives himself to someone, Krishna gives himself completely. That's it. It's like Krishna becomes the property of his devotee, actually. So when Krishna gives himself, he doesn't do it like, thoda diya, thoda nahi diya, little you give, little mat, little bit he'll give himself, but he'll be reserved also. No, when Krishna gives, he gives himself completely. So that is the reason I was hearing in a lecture that how, let's say there is a very rich man, okay, he's walking on the street, and then a beggar comes to him, and then the beggar says, please give me, please give me this, give me that, and and then the beggar asks, please let me come and stay in your home as your family member. I really adore you, and things like that. But then that rich man doesn't give him that, doesn't give him that privilege of of love. So that rich man can give, that rich man can give a meal to that person, can give that some money to that person. Similarly, Krishna might give us some material. We might have some material desire. Krishna will fulfill that. Okay, you want to lead a discussion in during Wednesday Sangha, take it, Jagannath Gopal. Okay, you want to do this, take it. You want some glory, take it. You have some material desires, take it. But himself he'll not give so easily. So because when he gives himself, it's even liberation Krishna will give. Liberation Krishna gives to those who fight with him also, right? Even liberation Krishna will give, but bhakti Krishna will not give so easily. So that is the special prerogative of Krishna, that he keeps it reserved for very, very special people who are completely his, pure devotees. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulena Krishna anushīlanam bhaktiruktam. No other abhilasha, no other desire except to please Krishna. So yeah, something that I remembered here.
Very, very strong points, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing. But I just have a follow-up question. So, if somebody is getting liberated, then doesn't it mean that they're back to their original position of service? So, one will be able to selflessly serve only if we love the person who serves, right? Then doesn't that mean that we have love for Krishna when we get liberated?
Not necessarily. So many, I mean, it might not be love for Krishna, but there might be some yogic advancement that that person has made before, right? For instance, the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra who fought against the Pandavas, right? They wanted to kill the Pandavas and put Duryodhana on the throne, which is in itself a huge offense, and Krishna doesn't tolerate offenses, but still offenses to his devotees. But still, when they got killed by Krishna, or by looking at Krishna, Krishna awarded them liberation. But now when we talk about liberation, liberation is not just one this thing. There are multiple levels within liberation. There are the 5 kinds of liberation: Sarupya, Samiti, Sayujya, Sarshti, and one more I forgot. So the liberation could mean that somebody goes to Brahman, right? That is one kind of liberation where there is no service as such. There is no love and service, but there is a kind of equanimity. There is a kind of cessation of misery, material misery. So which some people like, some souls, they do that, they go there. But then because the soul is by nature Satchidananda, that Ananda aspect, the bliss aspect is there. The soul wants to love and the soul wants to be loved. And that loving and being loved, that tendency, that proclivity is satisfied to its fullest when it is expressed in terms of Krishna and Jiva, rather than Jiva to Jiva, because Jiva to Jiva, there are many temporalities. Okay. But when Krishna to Jiva is there, Krishna is Vibhu, he is like unlimited. So he can reciprocate unlimitedly with us. And when we see other Jivas in relation to Krishna, that is when we can that exchange is eternal. So like that. So mukti or liberation also has multiple levels. So then there are so many other muktis, like Gajendra here has got Sarupya mukti. He has the same form, 400 form as the Lord. So yeah, that is so it depends on Krishna, and then we can't, again, it's whether to give to some souls Krishna, like for instance our not our but Putana, Kamsa's sister. So she was given the position of a Dhatri. So she was given the position of a nurse, like it's a mother, it's a position of a mother, kind of equal to a mother. So Krishna gave her that, and she came to kill him. She came to kill him in such a merciless way. So now you might say that, hey, why didn't you give this kind of a liberation to those who died in your presence on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Well, Krishna will say, my wish. So he's independent, he's Swarat, he can do. But then one thing we can definitely be assured of is Krishna will give us the kind of liberation or the kind of situation in which we can serve him to the best of our ability. So that is one thing that you can be assured of, because he is the super soul in the heart. Ishvara sarva bhutanam riddesha arjuna tishtati. Sarvasya chaham riddhi sannivishto matta smritira jnanam apohanam cha. So Krishna is, he knows us better than ourselves actually. Krishna knows us even better than ourselves.
Very true.
So
Yeah.
he'll give us where we fit the best. So if that means, giving Brahman realization, and then the soul stays in Brahman for long time, and then he realizes ki, no, I want some reciprocation. Then he comes back to the material world,
Mm.
and then again practices bhakti and perfects in bhakti.
Mm.
Although Shastras, I don't know if there is an example, but there is. Prabhupada definitely talks about how these Brahman realized soul come back to the material plane because of the lack of reciprocation and love.
Mm.
Aruya krichrena param padam tatah. So in the 10th canto, there is a verse. So yeah, it's up to Krishna, but we can be assured that he'll give us what is best for us.
Mm. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Quick question, Prabhu. Going back to the previous discussion about suffering seems to be essential for this, to find Krishna.
Purification is essential, not suffering.
Purification is essential, but purification seems to happen.
Because yeah, for
only
most
through-
souls, yeah.
For most souls, seems to happen only through suffering.
Yeah.
So now, conversely, thinking about it,
Mhm.
that means any success we get in the material life is
Mhm.
actually like a trap.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So that's what, right? Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj gave a class in the beginning of COVID. I think it was the beginning or sometime in 2020. And then somebody asked Maharaj that, when there are such situations like COVID and everything, we kind of know that we have to take shelter of Krishna. But when things get back to normal, we are not so eager. We are not as eager as when there are miseries. So Maharaj answered it in a very nice way. He kind of said that, why do you think that when things are normal, everything is good? That is a wrong thinking, because when things are normal, if that makes you slack, then that is actually it defeats the purpose. That's what Maharaj said. So we have to see the good things in our life also as potential traps. It depends on our consciousness, but they are potential traps. Yes.
So if I can add one point to Krishnan Prabhu's point. So if you open up this verse, I think it's 1826, Queen Kunti's prayers, Prabhu. So the four main obstacles in the path of bhakti are mentioned there. So 1826, I think. Janma Siddhashri. That's the verse. Yeah. So if you open this and if you go to the translation, so you'll see here that my Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself or herself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. If you think about it, in this world, everyone is looking for respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty. But Krishna here is saying, Queen Kunti is praying here that these are actually biggest obstacles. So what is actually considered a benediction in the material world is actually a curse for spiritualists. I hope so. That's a nice point that you made, Krishnan Prabhu, and I hope this answers.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But there are wealthy people who are, who act in the service of Krishna. And
yes. As if you can use all that in Krishna's service, like Pundarik Vidyanidhi, there are so many wealthy people, so many intelligent people, Gaurang Prabhu, they're all using their intelligence, mind, words, body, everything in the service of the Lord. So then it becomes all perfect. But if you are not using it in the service of the Lord, then it becomes a curse. That's the point.
Yeah, makes sense. Great. Thank you so much for clarifying this.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So any other reflections here on the first verse of fourth chapter? I didn't note down. Okay, I did note down some things. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead. So Lekha Mataji covered this. So Vamsidhar Gopal Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. नेदुर दुन्दुभयो दिव्या गन्धर्वा नन्दृतुर्जुगः ऋषयश्चारणा सिद्धा स्तुष्टुभु पुरुषोत्तमम्. There was a beating of kettle drums in the heavenly planets. The inhabitants of Gandharva Loka began to dance and sing, while great sages and the inhabitants of Charana Loka and Siddha Loka offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purushottam.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can read the next one also, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, can.
Sorry.
Yoso graha savai sadya paramasharya rupa dhruka mukto devala shapena hurgandharva sattamaha. I don't know how its note is. Pranamya shirisadisham uttama shlokam avyayam agayata yashodhama kirtanya guna satkatham. Can you go to translation, Prabhu?
Sorry.
Translation. The best of the Gandharvas, King Huhu, having been cursed by Devala Muni, had become a crocodile. Now, having been delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he assumed a very beautiful form as a Gandharva. Understanding by whose mercy this had happened, he immediately offered his respectful obeisances with his head and began chanting prayers just suitable for the Transcendental Lord, the Supreme Eternal, who is worshipped by the choicest of horses. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The story of how the Gandharva had become a crocodile will be described later. The curse by which the Gandharva took this position was actually a blessing, not a curse. One should not be displeased when a saintly person curses someone, for his curse indirectly is a blessing. The Gandharva had the mentality of an inhabitant of the celestial planetary system, and for him to become an associate of the Supreme Lord would have taken millions of long years. However, because he was cursed by Devala Rishi, he became a crocodile in only one life, was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face and be promoted to the spiritual world to become one of the Lord's associates. Similarly, Gajendra was also delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he was freed from the curse of Agastya Muni. So amazing. Previous verse, like how the whole universe is happy seeing the this pastime of Lord with Gajendra and the crocodile and all the Devatas, Gandharvas, they are showering flowers, all the Rishi Munis. And then this verse is like the indirect ways of the great devotees being merciful, like the Huhu Maharaj, King Huhu, who was cursed by Devala Muni. And I really like this line that now, having been delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he assumed a very beautiful form as a Gandharva. Understanding by whose mercy this has happened. He understood that this was actually mercy of Deval Rishi and not it was not a curse. It was a mercy disguised as curse. And then he offered his respectful obeisances and prayers to the Lord. So like the Arjuna trees in Krishna's Nanda Maharaja's courtyard, Nalkuver and Manigriv, they were cursed by Narad Muni, became trees. It was a curse apparently, but later they became part of one of the most beautiful pastimes of the Lord. Similarly, here the Maharaj who because he was a Gandharva, he had very long lifetime, happy life in material world, and it would have taken him millions of years, Prabhupada says, if he wanted to achieve that level of consciousness of bhakti. and become associate of Lord. But because of the curse of Deval Rishi, it became matter of only one lifetime. He became a crocodile, and then he got to see the Lord face to face. So lava matra sadhu sange sarva siddhi hai. Only by slightest of association with the great devotee can impart greatest blessing. So, and that we see in case of Srila Prabhupada and his disciples also, that so many disciples just came in contact with Prabhupada, and they became so great that they are inspiring millions and millions of people over the earth. So this is the power of like pure devotees of the Lord.
Beautiful, Prabhuji, beautiful. Such a nice this thing, such a nice reflection you got out of this. Yeah. Lavamatra sadhu sange sarva siddhi hoy. Yeah, if it had not been for Devala Rishi's curse, then King Hu would have had to struggle for so long to get that devotional consciousness. Yeah, but he got it just within one lifetime because of the curse. So definitely, a sadhu is one who cuts. The word sadhu actually means one who cuts. So, but that cut is not to cause us pain, but to actually purify us and to take us closer to the Lord. So yeah, very, very nice reflections, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Any other reflections here? Okay. Moving on. Verse number 5, Nitya Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. सोऽनुकम्पित ईशेन परिक्रम्य प्रणम्यतं लोकस्य पश्यतो लोकं समगान्मुक्तकिल्बिषः. Translation. Having been favored by the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and having regained his original form, King Hu circumambulated the Lord and offered his obeisances. Then, in the presence of all the demigods headed by Brahma, he returned to Gandharva Loka. He had been freed of all sinful reactions.
Yeah, you want to read the next one also?
Yes, bro. Yeah. Gajendro Bhagavat Sparshat Vimukto Jnana Bandhanat Prapto Bhagavato Rupam Pitavasas Chaturpujaha. Translation. Because Gajendra, the king of elephants, had been touched directly by the hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was immediately freed of all material ignorance and bondage. Thus, he received the salvation of Sarupya Mukti, in which he achieved the same bodily features as the Lord, being dressed in yellow garments and possessing 4 hands. Purport. If one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead by having his gross body touched by the Lord, his body turns into a spiritual body and he can go back home, back to Godhead. Gajendra assumed a spiritual body when his body was touched by the Lord. Similarly, Dhruva Maharaj assumed a spiritual body in this way. Archana Padati, daily worship of the deity, provides an opportunity to touch the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus, it enables one to be fortunate enough to get a spiritual body and go back to Godhead, not only by touching the body of the Supreme Lord, but simply by hearing about his pastimes, chanting his glories, touching his feet, and offering worship. In other words, by serving the Lord somehow or the other, one is purified of material contamination. This is a result of touching the Supreme Lord. One who is a pure devotee, Anya Bilashita Sunya, who acts according to the Shastra and the words of Supreme Personality of Godhead, certainly becomes purified. Like Gajendra, he assumes a spiritual body and returns home back to Godhead.
Any reflections, Mataji, on this?
Yeah, on the previous purport, it's interesting that even though we say that King Hu got liberated, he actually just got his previous body back, and then he just returned to Gandharva Loka. So I guess that is the... So I mean, I don't know the
He got
technical
the
question.
he got the devotional consciousness, I guess. That is
True. Yes, he was able to understand the curse that was given by Devala Rishis was not really a curse. Now it's now became a blessing, and he realized, and then he is grateful for the Lord to and offered prayers for giving him the that benediction of his darshan. But I was just thinking that he would have a go back to serving Krishna, but I guess he just returned back to Gandharva Loka.
maybe
I
he
mean,
is serving there with his Gandharva friends and relatives. Yeah, I don't,
yes, yeah.
because he is
Um,
the Lord, na?
yeah.
It's a big thing. I mean,
Sure, yes. That is why I was thinking that he realized, and yeah. I guess it is what it is, and he returned back to Gandharva Loka.
yeah, I
Um,
mean,
yeah.
we don't know why.
Yeah, I
Why?
guess at least he got freed of all the sinful reactions. So we can start with the blank slate.
Yeah.
From the purport of sixth one, yeah, we discussed all of this prior about how Dhruva Maharaja assumed a spiritual body by the touch of the conch shell of Krishna on his forehead, and how nicely Prabhupada was explaining that the deity worship, or even any amount of service, even it be chanting, hearing his Krishna's pastimes, glories, touching the feet, offering worship, or any amount of service, it's equivalent to touching the Supreme Lord. So that was very hope giving, and then the next sentence he further strengthens the point that one who is a pure devotee who acts according to the Shastra and the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead certainly becomes purified, which means it is not just the by doing the service, but also being sincere in the devotion. I guess Anya Bilashita Sunyam is unadulterated, unmotivated, unalloyed, pure bhakti is essential for the mercy of the Lord. Like Gajendra, he assumes a spiritual body and returns home back to Godhead. So, and Prabhupada just drives the point home that, like Gajendra, one who is a pure devotee who performs all this service, which is equivalent to touching the Supreme Lord, and who does it with sincerity according to the Shastra and the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will assume a spiritual body and returns home back to Godhead. Yeah. It's very nice, hope giving, and nicely tied up how it can benefit this pastime can benefit devotees, like aspiring devotees like us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes, it is definitely very hope giving, and yeah, by doing all these activities, we can get purified and slowly elevate our consciousness and attain love of God. So, yeah. Thank you so much, Mataji. Any other reflections here?
Prabhu, I want to make some points on that Gandharva verse. I mean, just from whatever I have heard, like the verse before this one. Yeah, that he became a Gandharva. So I think that Gandharva is like, I mean, these elevated Gandharvas, they like the Gandharvas are very expert in singing and arts, and the Gandharvas who are not fallen or who are like pure or elevated Gandharvas, they sing glories of Lord all the time. And that's how they always utilize their I mean, it's a Gandharva, that Krishna, the Gandharva who is praising Lord all the time, is very elevated position. So in this context, I remember like in Chitraketu Maharaj, he, even after he got darshan of Lord Sankarshana, he was he attained Vidyadhara planet, and he had like millions of queens, and they all will be singing the glories of all the time and roaming around that Vimana plane around the universe. And similarly, in the Mahaprabhu's pastime, in the Chota Haridas pastime, after Chota Haridas gave up his life when Mahaprabhu asked him to leave from his association, Chota Haridas used to come in his Gandharva form and used to sing for Lord Chaitanya on the shores of Jagannath Puri. So this, I think this Gandharva is a special case where like they are the pure associates of Lord, but they are serving Lord in Gandharva Rupa. So that's what I thought here. Because in previous work, Prabhupada clearly said that he became associate of the Lord.
Beautiful, yeah. Even after Damodar Leela, when Nalakuver, Mani and Manikriv get liberated, they actually get their heavenly bodies back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gaurakumar Prabhu, please.
Yes, Prabhu. So I just wanted to add to the wonderful point that Vamshidhar Gopal Prabhu made. So it is mentioned that Narad Muni was also a Gandharva. If you go to 7:15:72, but yeah, it's okay. I'll just mention what Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport. So there Srila Prabhupada mentions, yeah, 7:15:72. Yeah. If you go down, if you say there somewhere in the middle, after millions and millions, yeah. But here we find that millions and millions of years ago, when Narad Muni was a Gandharva, we find that Prabhu in the middle of the purport. But here we find little bit below. Yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah, Mani was a Gandharva.
Yeah, so Narad Muni was actually a Gandharva, and he neglected the order to glorify the Lord. So as Vamshidhar Gopal Prabhu clearly mentioned, all that the Gandharvas are doing pretty much is continuously glorifying the Lord. Now, because Narad Muni in his previous birth, because he was mad in the association of women, he began to chant something else instead of glorifying the Lord, and that is when he was cursed to be a Sudra. So it is a very elevated position where all the Gandharvas are actually glorifying the Lord. So it's not like a demotion, it's actually a promotion. So it is not, we should not look at that as uh, something which is low. But as we see in the case of Narad Muni, he became a Shudra and then he continued to progress. He continued to progress in going back home, back to Godhead. So it is possible for Gandharvas also to come here, get cursed, come here, become purified, and go back. But the point is that even the demigods, Gandharvas, everyone have to somehow come to this earth planet to become purified and go back. They cannot directly go from whichever planet they're on. It is possible even there, but it's more difficult, is what I've been told. So we are really, really fortunate to be here at this time. Even though this is an age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the benediction is that we can easily go back by chanting. And it is possible in this lifetime to go back home, back to God. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, amazing, Prabhuji. Yeah, and I think one thing that that kind of differentiates Gandharvas opposed to other demigods is that they are doing Sankirtan. I mean, they are very great musicians, so they can easily convert that music into Sankirtan.
Yes.
So yeah, as you know, as opposed to maybe in the Siddha Loka where everyone is meditating. Of course, they can meditate on Vishnu and do it, but yeah, I think every heavenly planet has a way to worship the Lord. So yeah, but more so for the Gandharvas. Yeah.
But it does become a little difficult as we go into the heavenly planets because there are so many other allurements and attractions there. And so that is why it is actually easier for us, because here it's almost 50% pain and 50% pleasure. It's 50-50.
Yes.
Once the pleasure starts increasing as we go higher in the heavenly planets, it becomes even more difficult to turn towards God. With a little bit of cell phone and some pleasures, it's still difficult to turn to God. Just imagine if we had more pleasures, how difficult it would be, how the mind would trouble us even more.
Yeah.
And thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, you want to add something else? This is
That's
the end of this section.
yes. Yes. Yeah. Very beautiful points made by everyone. Thank you. This was so nice today. We heard all these points.
Yeah. It's the churning of the Bhagavatam together, which is what makes it so amazing. Thank you all so much for joining. And so next week we are looking for a reader and actually 4 readers and a speaker also. So if anybody wants to lead or read, then please sign up. I have created a row for the next week. We should be able to finish it off in the next 2 weeks, this chapter. Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I just want to thank Manan Prabhu for joining. Manan Prabhu, are you back in the US? Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Manan Prabhu. Thank you, Soham Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna.
Very good.